Okay, let's dive into this.
Yeah.
You shared a really useful summary of Nepal's political history, starting around 2007. In their calendar, that's about 1950 for us.
Right.
Our plan is to unpack the big shifts, the key moments, to get a clear picture of this really dynamic period. We've got this overview, so let's start.
Sounds good.
First big thing, the end of the Rana dynasty in 2007 VS.
Yeah.
That's huge. Over 100 years of, well, autocratic rule ending. What happened right after that? What were the immediate effects?
Yeah, massive change. It basically threw things wide open. You suddenly had this push towards democracy after so long.
So chaos, or
A bit of both, maybe. The early years, sort of the 1950s, were definitely marked by political experimentation, lots of different parties popping up, trying to gain influence.
instability then.
Yeah, you saw frequent changes in government. That really tells the story of those first years. They even held their first parliamentary election in, what was it, 2015 VS.
Okay, but then things take a sharp turn, right? This period of royal control, a panchayat system, from 2017 to 2046 VS. What made King Mahendra dissolve the elected government just a couple of years later and bring in this non-party system?
Well, you could argue it was a reaction to that very instability. The perception, perhaps, was that the multi-party experiment wasn't quite working, leading to chaos.
So the panchayat system was meant to fix that.
That was the idea, presented as a uniquely Nepali path, but essentially it concentrated power back with the monarchy. It limited party politics, aiming for, top-down unity and control under the king.
Got it. But that didn't last forever. We see another big shift in 2046 VS back to multi-party democracy,
Yeah.
driven by a people's movement. What fueled that? Why did King Birendra agree?
It really shows the power of popular pressure, doesn't it? Over time, discontent with the panchayat system's restrictions just grew. People wanted more freedom, more representation.
So different groups came together.
Exactly. Various political factions united, pushed for reform, and eventually King Birendra had to reinstate multi-party democracy, although still within a constitutional monarchy framework.
Which leads us into the next phase. Constitutional monarchy, but also the Maoist insurgency. That started around 2052 VS and went on for a decade.
Yeah.
How did that conflict shape things?
Hugely. This wasn't just political maneuvering anymore. You had a major internal armed conflict challenging the entire state structure.
What were they fighting for?
The insurgency was fueled by deep-seated issues, inequality, lack of representation for certain groups, a desire for pretty radical change. It brought immense violence and instability and really forced the country to confront these, well, long-simmering problems.
And right in the middle of all that, the royal massacre in 2058 VS. Just
Mhm.
shocking. King Birendra, many others killed. Gyanendra becomes king. That must have been incredibly destabilizing.
Absolutely devastating. It shook the entire country, not just the monarchy. The sudden, violent loss of the king and his family created immense grief, uncertainty. The political landscape felt much more fragile after that.
Which seems to set the stage for King Gyanendra taking direct control in 2061 VS, dismissing the government. Why did he do that? And then the second People's Movement kicks off.
Yeah, his move to assume direct power was widely seen as, a major step backwards for democracy. It basically triggered a massive public backlash.
The second People's Movement.
Right, you saw huge protests, widespread participation from all sectors of society. The demand was clear, restore democracy, but this time, many were also calling for an end to the monarchy altogether. That earlier instability probably fed into the discontent.
And that movement succeeded, leading to the transition to a republic between 2063 and 2065 VS. Monarchy ends. Nepal declared a federal democratic republic. They set up an interim constitution, elected a constituent assembly. What was the hope then?
The main goal was, well, fundamental change. To build a completely new political system based on federalism, inclusion, social justice, things that hadn't been fully addressed. The Constituent Assembly was seen as this historic opportunity, to write a constitution reflecting everyone's aspirations after all the conflict.
But writing that constitution
hmm
wasn't exactly straightforward, was it?
Huh.
That period from 2065 to 2072 VS seems marked by more instability. What were the big hurdles?
Yeah, it proved incredibly difficult. Crafting the Constitution really brought all the deep divisions to the surface, disagreements between parties, between different ethnic and regional groups.
What kind of disagreement?
Big ones, like how to draw the federal boundaries, what rights different marginalized communities should have. These were really contentious points. It led to delays, political deadlock, more instability.
But they got there eventually. The new constitution promulgated in 2072 VS, establishing the Federal Democratic Republic, 3 levels of government. What are the key takeaways from that new structure?
The core idea is decentralization, shifting power away from just Kathmandu to federal, provincial, and local levels. It aims to recognize Nepal's incredible diversity and create a more inclusive, more representative system. Plus, enshrining fundamental rights was key.
So looking back at this whole period, quite a journey. From ending Rana rule through democratic experiments, royal control, a massive insurgency, that shocking royal tragedy, and finally establishing this federal republic. It's been, well, a period of constant dramatic transformation.
Absolutely. And ongoing challenges, too, in making that stability stick.
Right. And if you, listening, connect this to the wider world, you can really see how history, how societal pressures can force these huge shifts in how a country is run. Nepal's path from monarchy to republic really highlights just how complex democratization can be.
It's never a simple straight line.
Definitely not. So maybe a final thought for you to consider. How did these cycles of change in Nepal and the struggles they still face implementing this new federal structure, how does that inform the way we